Greetings to all in the love and light of the one infinite creator. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I am facilitator for the Seattle Law of One meditation and discussion group. We meet on Zoom Tuesdays from 3:30 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're interested in joining us, it's not limited to folks in Seattle. Anybody around the world who is available at that time is always welcome to join us. If you search Facebook for Seattle Law of One meditation discussion group, we're the group that has the cover page that you're seeing on your screen. We're also listed on the LNL website and their study groups link. If you have not seen the most recent remodel of the LNL webpage, highly encourage you to do it. It's a lot of beautiful stuff to be found there. Today, we are lucky to be joined by Jim McCarty, a man who needs no introduction, so I will not bother introducing him either. Presumably, if you're here, you know who he is, and if you don't know who he is, you're probably better off watching something else on YouTube. How are you today, Jim?
Doing well. It's a chilly day here, but the sun's shining brightly and the sky's blue, and my kitty cat's sitting in my lap purring.
Oh, so wonderful. Is that Mr. Dandelion?
This is his sister. This is Chloe.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, we're happy to have everyone here today. I know folks have a lot of questions they want to ask. I will be looking in the chat window for questions. For now, I did want to start off with a question of my own. Let's see, I will ask everyone to mute their mics if you are not muted at present. Would much appreciate it. Jim, you and I have talked a little bit about the tuning songs that the channeling team uses to prepare for contact with Quo and with our other friends in the Confederation. And there was a posting on the Law of One study group Facebook page that I hang out on a week ago or so, where we had some wonderful suggestions from folks who submitted songs that might work nicely. And I believe you chose a number of those songs. I was really curious. I think most people might be surprised that the songs that your group uses to tune in are not necessarily new agey, instrumental, ethereal sounding music, but pretty down to earth rock pop songs, I think, by most standards. I was curious can you give us a little bit of a sense of how your group tunes in and how your group prepares before those channeling sessions?
Well, everyone has their own process of going through tuning. And this is something that's been developed over the 5 years we've been together. And it came from the last intensive meditation and channeling group that Carla had in 2008. She had a framework of ideas that each person could utilize to find the best tuning. That would also include making contact with your guide, any prayer that might be useful to you or meaningful to you, imaging a workroom that you see your guide helping to make suggestions as to whether you are ready to begin the channeling process or not, if there's something else you need to do. So there's a lot that was in a general framework she had to suggest, and then each person would fill in their own intricacies, you might say, so that they would utilize what had meaning to them. Mm-hmm. And once this process is completed, and it usually takes about 10 or 15 minutes, actually. Mm-hmm. Once that process is completed, then we use a tuning song. And since we all pretty much, including Carla, grew up in the rock and roll age, we tend towards getting the more spiritually oriented from entities such as Van Morrison, Lacey J. Dalton, and so forth, that have some really amazing songs that touch upon the most important spiritual principles that we feel would help us in our channeling. And then we always have the Lord's Prayer, and then is when the channeling actually starts. So it's a fairly lengthy process that we've gone through over all these years, and it's something that Carla developed starting back in 1974 when she first channeled. And it's something that she developed as time went on. The tuning process, most channels know that you need to be tuned in some way, but she helped to add a lot of layers of understanding and meaning for us to utilize for this process. And then she also came up with something that was probably unique at the time, and I think probably in some ways some people have not heard of it yet. That's called challenging any contact that wants to speak through you. Each time you channel, and you challenge in a way, again, that has meaning for you. She challenged in the name of Jesus Christ. She would say, do you come in the name of Jesus Christ? Can you say Jesus Christ is Lord? And she would challenge 3 times. And if the entity wishing to speak through her could not say yes, then she wouldn't channel him. That was very unusual for any entity ever to try to channel through her if they weren't, they probably knew beforehand they're going to be challenged. So, and when she did that, it was as though Jesus was standing next to her. So no other entity would lie about that. Each person would be suggested to find their own heart of being that they could challenge by, something that they live for and would gladly die for. So people could use one of the saints, Buddha, or a principle of service to others, or in the open heart, whatever they had as the heart of their spiritual journey would be that which they challenged by. So those 2 qualities, the tuning and the challenging, were what she felt were the very important types of preparations necessary in order to do your very best each time that you were being a channel for what we call the Confederation philosophy.
That is beautiful. Yeah, I remember reading a session where Quo said something to the effect that whatever is that important, as he said to that person, if your bedpost was as important to you, then they would talk to you through your bedpost and they would be challenged through that. Well, that's interesting. That's pretty cool. I did want to pause here and remind folks who are joining us on this Zoomcast, if you have a question that you'd like to ask Jim, I will ask you to type it in the chat window first. I was assuming a lot of people had a lot of questions they wanted to ask. If that's not the case, well, I could go on asking questions to Jim forever and would love to hear more about the channeling process and so on. But I also wanted to give as many other people a chance as possible to ask questions, and they have. So again, if you are on the Zoom call, and it looks like we've got about 20 people here, if you look at the bottom of your window, there should be an icon that says chat. And if you click on that, you should see a little chat window appear in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and you can type your question there. And it looks like we have a question from Andy. Andy, would you like to unmute your mic, maybe introduce yourself, tell us where you're calling from, and ask your question?
Oh, yes, I was trying to find, I'm Andy, I'm in Cornwall. It's about 5:15 over here. And I posted the question when you first posted the meeting on Facebook. I was just trying to find it. And it's about the couple of wanderers who went to Venus and then they reversed their polarity without realizing it. And then when they came out of the illusion, they were disconcerted that their polarity had switched. And I think in my life personally, I've met a lot of people who feel, like their actions and words seem to be so contrary to service to others, and yet they've been so successful in convincing themselves and others that they are serving others when being in their presence it is just sort of sucks your energy. And I wondered, like, first of all, how is it that they can, how do we know that when we're deceiving ourselves? and also, given that these wanderers on Venus didn't know and they were disconcerted, and then through a lot of effort managed to reverse polarity, why don't more entities do that when the veil is lifted? Why do they not just go, oh, okay then, given that it's more efficient to be positively polarized, let's just reverse our polarity when we've left the illusion.
Great question.
And why does polarity matter then? You know, because in a way I've found that a lot of, so to speak, service to self people have actually provided me with the strongest catalyst for wanting to seek. So the service to self people have given the most powerful catalyst for seeking, in a way.
And you've asked a lot of great questions there. Jim, do you want to respond to any of that at this point?
I'll do my very best. It is a very good question. I'll start with the two entities, the Wanderers, the fifth density that went to Venus, and they went there with the desire to be of service. They knew beforehand, however, that the majority of the population of Venus saw these entities that would eventually become the raw social memory complex. There are about 6.5 million of them out of 38 million on the planet. And they thought that this group was creating a sickeningly sweet environment that just didn't make sense to them. And so the population seemed to be distorted in the way of wisdom and not of love, not of the heart at that time. So these two wanderers went there hoping to be able to aid the unpolarized entities that saw those of what would become raw as sickeningly sweet in their behavior with each other. And I'm just guessing, I have no idea of really the nuts and bolts of how this worked, but I know that that was the situation before they incarnated. So they went there hoping to provide a more wisdom-oriented teaching. And what developed was that they became what we would call negatively polarized. They did not include the heart. They went to wisdom and trying to utilize the product of the intellect that could be wise and could find ways of growing or polarizing more efficiently. And what it turned out to be, curiously enough, is what we would call a negative polarization, service to self instead of service to others. So they went in the opposite direction. Now, as far as how that applies to people that we know in our third density environment, there are many people that feel that they are on a spiritual path, and that is very likely the case. And they feel that there is the way they continue on that path in an intellectual way, that they can create or be aware of understandings of how to do things, of how to relate in a matter-of-fact way, you might say, in a way that does not really ask anything of the heart, does not consult the heart first in order to become imbued in the creative power of love. The universe, as you know from the raw contact, is made by the power of love. And the free will of the creator focusing on that love creates the light that condenses into the material we see around us. So we need to be aware that that power of love is really what we're here to develop. And if we can also utilize the mental or intellectual or wisdom-oriented refinements, you might say, of love, then that is a way to balance and to go forward. But it is necessary to recognize that the foundation of our experience is to open our hearts in unconditional love. That is what we're here to do in order to make the graduation into the fourth density. And if we can do that at least 51% of the time, then we can make the harvest. But we have to remember that that is the first place we check. And I think some entities have more of a intellectual orientation. They check their intellect first. They give a great deal of credence and value to being intelligent and to be able to understand difficult concepts in various fields of endeavor. And this has its place in our life secondarily, I believe. So I would say that in general, we need to build our lives upon the foundation of the open heart and let the intellect and wisdom become a secondary commentary if we wish to share with others how we're getting where we're going. Now, is there any part of your questions that I have omitted that I could try to cover again? Andy?
No, that was very clear. Thank you very much. I hadn't looked at it from that perspective at all. Something to meditate on. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
It's a beautiful question. Appreciate the answer. And yeah, it reminds me of many times that we've heard about that balance of love and wisdom, for sure. I see a question from Shayla about challenging. Shayla, would you like to unmute your mic and say hi and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Hello, I'm from Slovenia, Shayla, and very glad to be here. Thank you all so much. Just maybe a little follow-up, because we all have certain doubts when we do these stuffs, and mental mind very much likes to go in doubt thing. And because if you're a beginner, newbie or something, you're not very sure of things. So if when challenging, for example, you take, you challenge them in the name of creator, but at the same time, you're very well aware that creator can encompass both good and bad. How do you clear this? I mean, I always go also with Christ consciousness, even though I'm like Muslim background, but Christ consciousness really resonates with me. But I would like, something more wow. But I go with creator, but at the same time, and I know that it's all in intent. So if you do, it's good, it's love and light. But is it, my mental mind has always some doubt if this is powerful enough to back off all the negative as well.
Well, I think that's also a very good question. May I ask you, do you channel, or do you hope to channel?
I'm just like starting, with my higher self, and I don't know, with things that come to me. I still need to learn to trust these images and thoughts that come to me.
Are you in a group? Are you in a group or by yourself?
By myself. I mean, we are the meditation group and we share stuff, but no, we don't channel together, because I just wanted to see first, my higher self, how does it go? Because I've been to a couple of regression therapies and QHHT sessions, and I've kind of got the now easier transition where you believe stuff that come are natural to you and you believe in them. But anything further, I mean, I'm not there yet, but in meditation or whatever, when you want to call on all good, you have this little inch of a doubt of whether really it's all good. I don't know.
Okay.
I know you're not supposed to, go channeling on your own, the big things and stuff like that. And I'm not doing that because I'm a beginner, but just for, my exercises, for my better protection.
Right. Entities that are available to each of us are many, and you have mentioned your higher self as one that we can make contact with. And sometimes it might be that they will contact us through words, which would be the process of channeling that you're talking about. It might be that one of our guides, we each have a male guide, a female guide, and an androgynous guide. Other times, maybe a loved one who has passed on and is on the other side might wish to contact you. All of these are sources that you may channel, without being in a group. And as to whether or not you feel that you are really channeling them, this little bit of doubt you feel, I think that what you might want to do to remove that doubt is to perhaps develop your own system of praying to whatever source. You say you're Muslim in background, or you believe in Christ consciousness, whatever has meaning to you, to pray to that source and pour out your heart in an honest revelation of why it is you want to do what you're doing, why you want to channel your higher self or your guides, or what Ra called the mind, body, spirit complex totality, which is like the higher self of your higher self. If you can do that, if you can begin getting down to the nitty gritty of what it is that motivates you to want to do this, and then ask that your will to do it be balanced by the faith that you can do it. Those are the two qualities that Ra suggested are our most powerful allies in doing anything that we want to do. So in order to develop that will to do what you want to do and to have the faith that you can do it, then I would recommend, as I said, making some kind of an appeal to your higher self or whichever source there, a guide or a loved one that you feel is most helpful or most likely to respond, and become very vulnerable. Pour out every feeling and emotion as to what it is you want to do and why you want to do it. Get down there to the very basis of your being, and let that beingness be filled with the will and faith that all of this is possible and that you can do it, and you can do it without doubt. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking the question. I see another question from Wen Su about archetypes. Wen Su, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Hi, I typed my question, so I will just read it. So Ra says in session 70.9, something about is in I guess the development of adapt is appropriate to arrive at a position of being able to become and to experience archetypes as well. So I would like, Jim, if you can share maybe a personal experience of experiencing or becoming an archetype. I kind of just want to know what it's like what does Ra mean here by doing that?
Well, Ra suggested that this is an advanced practice of the adept. And I must tell you that it is advanced beyond my ability at this time. I have not done that, to be honest. But I believe what Ra was talking about, there are 22 archetypes that give us a basic framework of the nature of how we evolve through the third density illusion. 3 of them are concerned with the mind, 3 with the body, 3 groups of 7 with the mind, another group of 7 with the body, and another group of 7 with the spirit. And then the 22nd is the choice. It's what we're all here to do, is to choose positive or negative polarity, service to others or service to self. So what Ra was suggesting is that we would take one of the archetypes that has special meaning to us. And so just to begin, I would look at the first archetype, which is the matrix of the mind, the magician, the conscious mind. And this is what we all operate with in our daily lives. And this magician can be assisted in its work of discovering the path that we should take by accessing its unconscious mind, the potentiator of the mind, which is the high priestess. So there is a male-female type of relationship here, that the male can be inspired by the female, the unconscious mind, to utilize the pre-incarnated choices we have all made before the incarnation. These are the lessons we want to learn in order to make the graduation to the fourth density. We've all planned this out, and our unconscious mind knows what those are, and it can bias the way we look at the world, so we see the potential for these lessons coming to us more and more frequently. And the conscious mind can see these lessons, and being the magician it is, the quality that makes the magician a magician is that it can create changes in consciousness at will. So when the unconscious mind, the high priestess, gives some sort of an indication to the magician that there is a direction it can go in, then that magician can become able to go in that direction in a fashion in which it creates its reality. It changes its consciousness in a way that is more effective in the polarization of the mind in service to others. So if one were to become the archetype of the magician, say, then one would clothe oneself with the magician's ability to seek that which is unknown, but that which was planned before the incarnation, and to become that lesson, whether it be learning how to communicate more clearly, to open the heart in love, to take on the unknown, to be fearless in going forward, whatever, however it is, there are just so many lessons that each person has. Actually, there's so many ways of looking at them. Each person probably has no less than 3 or 4 at the most for the incarnation. So to become that quality is to embody one of your lessons. And each of us has unique lessons. We are all unique beings. There are no 2 in the universe that are the same. So in becoming the lesson and embodying it and clothing yourself with it, you would become more aware of how you could learn that lesson and go forward from there into a greater expression of that lesson, because there are various levels of every lesson that can be learned. And we can go higher or deeper, however you want to look at it, more intricately into the lesson as we learn it. So that is what I would suggest is becoming the archetype for that particular archetype. Now that can be done for all 21 of them. And then each of us would embody the choice as at some point in our lives, we would consciously say, well, this is it for me. I want to be of service to others. I want to give of myself to others in whatever way is appropriate whenever I have the chance to be of service. So any other question there in that regard?
No, thank you. That's great.
Well, thank you for your question.
Wonderful questions, folks. Appreciate it. I'm seeing a couple more in the chat window. I'm sure we will get to those, and I would encourage anyone else, if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat window, and we're looking good on time. There's a question from Hannah B about service to self and self-care. Hannah, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yeah, I will. Hold on, let me, okay. I guess my question is that I have a hard time accepting that self-care is like not service to self in the negative polarity sense. Like whenever I try to make time for myself, there's a sense of guilt, in a sense that I should be like taking care of my children or making sure our home environment's tidier, or, you know, just really anything. Can Jim share any advice on this?
I believe that what is the most important quality of what you're asking is the intention you have. Why do you want to take care of yourself? And very likely, you need to take care of yourself to a certain degree so that you can be of service to others. You have to maintain your own health of mind, body, and spirit so that you are able to offer your talents in service to others, whatever they may be. So I'm sure that, you know, just listening to you talk about your situation and having children, that you are a very service to others oriented type of person. And I don't believe that you should feel guilty about wanting to take care of yourself, because that will allow you to serve your children and others better. If one lets the health, you know, go, the nutrition and the exercise and the mental health and all of that, then you are making it more difficult to be of service to others. So do take care of yourself. I think one of the basic qualities here is that in the lower energy centers, especially in the orange one, It is concerned with your image of yourself and accepting yourself. And we have to be able to accept and love ourselves before we can ever be loving to anyone else. If we don't know how to love ourselves, we're not going to do very well at loving others. So the reason you would want to love yourself and take care of yourself is so you could serve others better. Does that make sense? Have any other questions?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I guess it just led to the question of, well, I don't even know who I am and how do I even begin to figure that out? But thank you. That answered my original question very well.
Well, thank you.
Sounds like you're off to a great start, Hannah. And at the risk of sounding sexist, that sounds like a very typical woman thing to ask. I rarely hear men ask whether taking care of yourself is being selfish or service to self. It must be a maternal instinct, but bless you for it. I see a question from Marcella about catalysts. Marcella, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for providing this platform. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody. My question is regarding something, I mean, this is something personal that happened like a month and a half ago when I was doing a Monroe Institute exercise. And I sort of myself gave myself something of the heart, an opening of the heart that was extremely powerful. And after that, I wasn't able to feel any negative emotion. I was able to look at thoughts, observe them, but from the outside, not my thoughts in a way, and was not able to feel any sort of negative emotion. And then I realized that I was also not able to feel any super uber positive emotion either. I observed them. There was a loving base to all of it, but there was no swinging of the pendulum on either way. And I have been working a lot lately into sort of starting experiencing catalysts by myself. I started saying, well, I want to learn about, I don't know, deep love of myself or deep love for others. And I've granted opportunities immediately to actually do that. So I started somehow, some way, receiving very quickly, like feels like being on the Autobahn, of receiving that exactly, which I said with faith and with intention, but deep surrendering into that part, that aspect that I want to experience, that I want to learn, that I want to become, that I want that to become part of me consciously, not just in the background. So again, so things are happening way too fast, not too fast, but really, really fast. And I just wonder, how do you know if you're creating your own catalyst? Because at this point, I feel like I'm putting all the ingredients in front of myself to actually eat them later on, like a few days on, or sometimes hours after putting those ingredients. But I'm putting the ingredients. I'm the one doing it. So it's a strange thing. Not experienced this years ago. It's a new thing, but it feels very, very quick and very rapid and it's fascinating, obviously.
Well, I think fascinating is one of the adjectives I would definitely give to this experience. This is just my opinion. I think that you have had a kind of self-awakening or realization that you have the ability to open your heart in unconditional love and to experience what that love is. It's infinite reach in your experience, so that it can bring to you whatever experience you want in order to accelerate this process that you're undergoing, and that all of us in some way are undergoing, but for some blessed reason in your life, there came a time when it was possible for you to open the door to your heart in a way that let that love flow out and to be directed however you wanted it to be. Yeah. And I think that this is a real blessing. The only suggestion I would make is that continue to observe how this does come rapidly, how much you feel you can assimilate efficiently, and how far or fast you wish to go. Because I believe it is totally up to you right now. And this is a great power and gift and blessing that you have. And you can use it well. And I think you are using it well. And
it's coming so fast. And one of the things, because then it's not only that you choose one. For example, I want to experience the power of God, the power of the Creator. And it just comes. It just comes. I want to experience this, and it just comes, and it just keeps coming, and it's just. And I realized that no longer I no longer have descriptions or qualities to a thought. They are no longer positive or negative. It's just a pendulum in the center. And sometimes when there is observation of a thought, how the potential is there for it to go either way, but it's not experienced any longer.
Right. You are seeing things more as they truly are, which is all
Right.
the one creator. And if you want them to go one way or another for whatever reason, they very likely will. But you know very well that they're all part of that one creator that is revealing itself to you at the speed that you wish to go. And blessings on your journey. I think you are going in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing that. That's really beautiful. And wish you the best in the continued journey.
Thank you.
I see Wensu has a second question, but before we get to that, I wanted to give Parsa a chance to ask the first question about channeling. Parsa, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Jim, I was just wondering, in concept channeling, can basic sounds also be communicated?
As a matter of fact, they can. Years ago, in the mid-'80s, Carla channeled an entity called Nona, N-O-N-A, and it seemed to be a feminine principle, and it sang notes. It did not use words. It only sang notes. And there was one other person in our group that could channel Nona. Other than that, that is the only time I've ever had experience with non-verbal communication.
Do you remember what the feeling was like in the moment?
Very inspiring, very powerful, very beautiful, absolutely unique. I think we still have recordings somewhere of Nona. It was impressive. It was very inspiring.
That was a great question. Parsa, did you have any follow-ups on that?
Not particularly. I guess the reason it came to my mind, it was just stuck in my mind, is I was always wondering how the originally how Adone Vasu Boragus was channeled. I guess that could be how it was originally in the brown notebook, I assume, right?
It was in there the first time. It's part of what's called the Solex Mal, the language of the sun. And it's basically leaving you in the name of the creator and the love and light of the creator using this other language.
A language that originates with the stars?
Very likely. Well, you know, they call it the music of the spheres. There is a sound in the universe that for those who are very sensitive, they can perceive it. I think it might have something to do with that. Might also have something to do, Ra mentioned the two languages, Hebrew and Sanskrit, were those that came from the logos, came from the logos of our Milky Way galaxy. And they had special power because they were of that origin, and that anyone who could intone them in the correct way would discover that the creation was singing inside of the self.
What a beautiful thing. Yeah, and the whole idea of language that comes from other parts of the universe is really, yeah, beautiful. Thank you for asking those questions, Parson. Wensu, did you want to ask your question?
I would like Kyle and Leon ask theirs first. I can wait till the end.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was engrossed in the conversation. I didn't even see the two other comments there. Kyle, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Sure thing. Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, Jim, it's so nice to finally like have first contact with you. And I just wanted to get your opinion on whether you know, how does a positive society that is extremely loving, like for example Ra's society on Venus, how does that exist in a world where there's also negative societies that are warlike and capable of conquering? Doesn't it almost, you know, doesn't making a positive society tend to leave you vulnerable as a people to being conquered? And how would you protect yourself from that if you lived on a planet, a mixed planet?
Well, that's a pretty good question, and I don't know if I have a really good answer for it. I know that those of Ra were able to engage in what they felt was the seeking of the true nature of spiritual and sexual experiences with each other. Sexual energy exchanges is what they called them. And these exchanges would enhance each entity's ability to seek more of the creator, especially as they began to penetrate the veil and get into the realms of where the archetypical mind could be perceived and could bring back these archetypes as what we know as the tarot, the major arcana of the tarot, that is. So in these types of philosophically oriented societies, there was a kind of protection that was able to be provided for those that partook in this experience by magical invocation of certain types of entities that would assist them in their endeavor to seek more of the creator within themselves and within each other, and to be of service to others and to polarize in the positive sense. So similar to the way we protect the Ra room for the Ra contact, there are rituals, one of them being the banishing ritual of the lesser pentagram, that can be used to provide this type of protection, so that it is the same thing as a channel asking any entity wishing to channel through it, if it comes in the name of love and light, name of the creator, or whatever, that is the most effective for that group or that entity. So I believe that this is what was done by those of Ra. They had the ability to engage in what was the most powerful use of the vital energy of any entity, the energy of mind, body, and spirit used for a spiritual purpose. And they did this in the realm or the way of protection by various invocations to the higher powers that would lend them this protective nature. On their particular planet, as you know, according to those two wanders that turned negative, there were negatively oriented entities that very likely would have had some desire to interfere with what was going on, but without the ability to interfere because those of Ra had been able to provide their own protection. So that's the best answer I can give you.
Great
Thank
answer.
you so much.
Great question.
Yeah.
Did you have follow-ups, Kyle?
No follow-ups.
It's a great question. Certainly something that makes me think of planet Earth at this time. I think very similarly could be applied. Leon has a great question to ask. Leon, would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Jonathan. This has been so exciting. This is so fun. Jim, thank you so much for doing this with us.
My pleasure.
And such great questions. So mine is kind of a service to self-oriented question too. You know, if in our veiled third density experience, we're able to see virtue and commitment to service to others, how is it that fourth and even fifth density beings assuming having a less veiled experience and presumably more mental clarity there, twist or rationalize love towards the self in order to justify harming others?
That is basically a question that Don asked Ra too, because he didn't really understand if they were beyond the veil and they could see how positive entities could polarize, why would they want to be negative? And the best response I think that Ra gave was that some entities just have this type of an inclination that comes from the second density experience that they had, that when they were able to transfer into third density, they brought with them this basic love of the self. In the second density, that sometimes the self was the same as the pack or the group, and it wasn't considered a polarizing type of an action or choice. But when the entities got into the third density, they were still thinking more of the self. And they had this somehow, Ra used the analogy of a picnic, that life could be seen as a picnic. And many people enjoyed the sun, they enjoyed the games, they enjoyed the food, they enjoyed the togetherness with each other. And yet there were others who enjoyed a darker picnic. They liked the perversities of life. They liked seeing how they could cause entities to serve them, that they could have power over entities, that they could take the entities' power and use it for themselves. They could control them. And they liked a different type of picnic. And that was basically what Ra had to say about it. I think that once the negatively oriented entity gets into the higher realms, they have become so addicted to the power that they have and seeing how they can control others and move up the pecking orders so that they get more and more power. I think power is it's like an addiction. And I think it's true in third density too for many people that are in positions of power. So that's the best answer I got for you, is that it's just something that's carried over from their second density experience. And it's something that's sort of in the bones, in the cells. And it's something they pursue until the beginning of the sixth density, when they discover that in order to go any further, they have to not control others. They have to see others as themselves, because that's where further power of service to others lies. So they immediately reverse their polarity. They switch it. So they are now positively oriented. And so it's a long journey that they've been on, but we all get to the same place, no matter where we come from or how we get there. We are all the creator, and we're all going home, and we're all going to make it together eventually.
So yeah, the second part of it, well, thanks a lot. That's great. So do you think they know that, I mean, if we know that you have to ultimately switch or be positive to make it all the way home, clearly you'd think they know that too, but I guess they're, like you said, they're so drunk on the power, they're just going to play it all the way out until they have to switch. Do you think it's like that?
I think it's something like that. I mean, I can't assume to know exactly what's going on in their minds, but yeah, the power that they've been able to demonstrate, you know, maybe they're thinking to themselves, well, I'm going to be the first one to go all the way negatively oriented. And yeah, I'm going to set the record. I'm going to set the bar so high, nobody will ever break it. I don't know, you know, because it's a certain sort of egotism. I mean, their egos are their greatest tool. And it's a certain sort of seeing themselves as being able to put the universe in order, as Ra said, that this is their playground. This is where they get to do what they want to do. And others will follow them and help them do it because they hope to learn the same thing. They hope to move higher themselves. So they're willing slaves of these entities that are enslaving as many as they can. That's my best guess. I mean, you know, it's foreign to me.
Right. So I guess it's not a complete linkage between separation and the veil, because if third density is the only density having this rigid veil, or even not even that rigid, if we are starting to play with the amorphousness of it, I guess even in fourth and fifth density, where they understand that it's all one thing, they're still playing the game or something.
The game is the thing. They want to do as much as they can to put the universe in order. And there's so much of it that they need to put in order. And so it looks like an endless journey for them, something that they're going to keep on doing, because look at all this love stuff here. We got to get this in order. We got to get these entities in the pecking order, and that'll be below me somewhere. So, that's my best guess. All I can do is guess.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Yeah, and great explanations. Thank you, Jim. We are getting close to the end of our hour, and Wensu, I wanted to appreciate you for being thoughtful of others and letting others go first. But I know you did have a second question that you wanted to ask. Would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question?
I have a question because we were talking about Carla and archetypes. I remember when she passed, Jim, you have written, you commented that the day of her passing is April 4th, that related to the first and the 22nd card of the full archetype. So in my mind, she has moved on to starting her new journey. And I wonder, have you received any message from her since her passing?
Yes. After Carla passed away, there was a period of about 8 months where I worked very carefully and joyfully with dreams. And in a couple of dreams, and one especially, I had an experience with Carla where she was giving me information that was very helpful on my spiritual journey, information that I'm still using to this day, and which has evolved into a certain way of meditating that helps me realize more of who I am, and more of why I'm here, and more of where I'm going. And from time to time, I still hear a little something from her in dreams. And every time I do, I am overwhelmed with joy.
What a beautiful question. What a beautiful thing to share.
It's great to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much. I am seeing from our clock that we are about at the end of our hour. And Jim, I'm guessing that you've got some gardening work to do.
Oh, good guess.
I'm only guessing from reading every entry in your Camelot journal.
Yeah.
So much appreciate your spending your time with us today, and for sharing your love and wisdom and experience. Did you have anything that you wanted to say in closing before we part ways for now?
Well, I just want to thank everybody that came and it was part of the group, whether you asked a question or not. I especially enjoyed the questions. They're very impressive questions. You all are obviously on very powerful spiritual journeys. And I think we're all part of that same group that is here on Earth, those wanderers who have come to be of service to this planet, because it has been calling for help for thousands of years. And it's a joy to be with you. And we are traveling together. It seems like we're apart, but we are not. We're together in love and in light. And I love each of you, and blessings on your spiritual journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who's here. Till next time. Namaste.
Thank you, Jim.
Good night.
Namaste.